Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. This is a special edition of the Moving Iron Podcast. I got William Hunt from Hunt Marketing here with me. And William, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. William reached out to me. I think it was LinkedIn, right?
That's right.
LinkedIn and started talking back and forth, and he'd done some stuff for 21st, the dealership I work for. He'd done some stuff with them, and I didn't know that. Let me tell you, I mean, I knew it, but it took me a while to connect the dots because I'm not the fastest person in the room. So, but it was one of those things where I had a good opportunity to have a conversation with him about what they're doing there. So, let's start like this. First off, thanks for being on the podcast, and tell me a little bit about your background and how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Jackson, Mississippi. I moved up to Oxford, Mississippi, which is the home of Ole Miss, the University of Mississippi, when I was about 5. Grew up here, very small town, so it's about 9,000 people, 9,000 students. Wonderful experience growing up, and then decided to go up to college. Went to college in Virginia for 2 years. Then decided to do a semester abroad, University of St Andrews in Scotland. And Prince William decided to go after I announced I was going, so a lot of attention, and went over there for a semester and was walking down the old course, where golf was invented, 18th hole one day after my buddy and I had in a local pub, and he was like, "Yeah, wouldn't it be great to stay here?" And so as you're walking down the 18th hole, I was like, yes, I didn't say anything at the time, but the next day I applied to transfer. And so I went from pre-med to doing economics, and I ended up losing a year. But in Scotland, you get a master's degree undergraduate. So ended up being over there for 3 years. It was a wonderful experience. I people from all over the world. So something I've enjoyed, with our work is reaching the people, in this podcast, reaching people from all areas of the world. And it's been a really fun thing. So it's ended up going to Washington, D.C. Spent 7 years there. Worked in lobbying and business development, primarily in IT or telecommunications work, and then started my own company about 13 years ago with my wife. And it's one of those manifestation things. I'm a big believer in manifestation, or putting things out into the universe, and they will become real. So I didn't remember this, but in about 4 years at my job, I just had an opportunity to start my own company. And when I did, my wife told me a few weeks later, she was like, "You remember that you told me when we first started, to me that within 5 years you're going to have your own lobbying firm." And I'd forgotten. And so I think it's important, for listeners and anybody in the conversation to always remember, if you put up something, that can come true. And so started doing lobbying business development. It was time to come home. So I moved back to Oxford, Mississippi. I said I was never going back, and never say never, right? And so my wife worked for a leading company in online hospitality, the online marketing company for hospitality and hotels. And so that was kind of the background of how we ended up where we are today. And so we moved back here. I kind of had to start over. I failed. And had to really start over. My wife was working for the online marketing company, as I mentioned. And so started doing community involvement work locally here in Oxford. That expanded then over to North Mississippi and Mississippi Delta. And now we're fortunate to work with clients from the 21st century, to Florida, basically Midwest, all the way up, Texas, Florida, those things. So very blessed about the opportunity. And we have a team of 12 individuals, August 1st, 11 of us now. And we have a passion for working with John Deere dealers in particular, the dealer groups. And we're with 5 now. One of those is 21st century equipment. Sunshine, which is in Louisiana, Wade, which is in Mississippi, Ag Pro, which is the largest in North America, and Sister Kenobi, which is in Missouri. So, loved it. That's kind of the background of where we are today and what we're passionate about. And The value of local content is something that, is really our differentiating factor, being able to go capture that local content and tell the stories of local people, how they're utilizing products or services. We've done that with Sonic franchises. We've done that with John Deere. We've done that with healthcare. It is the differentiating factor, being able to tell those stories and also distributing those stories to your local customers. It provides the difference and builds that connection that nothing else does. So we found that kind of sweet spot, and really, just love to hear people's stories. It's phenomenal, the stories that you can hear out there.
Yep. All right. So talk a little bit about that local content that you're talking about. I mean, give me a background of what it is that you're looking for local content wise. I mean, is it the human story that comes along with that? I mean, what is it that you're trying to tell, right, with the local content?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's obviously, I think all great leaders, all great teams focus on their people, right? So I think one place is to start is, who are your people, right? And everybody has a story to tell. And I think that is something that when you're going after, you have to choose, you have to choose between doing business with business A or business B, relationships, right? And knowing people's story, feeling like you connect with somebody, that there's a bond there, is really important. So being able to go in, and we work with our clients on this, of saying, all right, who's got a great story to tell, right? Whether it's we do a culture video, or we as multiple people in an organization telling the story of the culture and of the people, or to be individual testimonials of the team and why they enjoy working there, even adding personal elements into it, provides value in addition to the business culture. And then being able, so identifying those, is first and foremost. Second thing is obviously your customer. So, again, you want to feel like that whoever you're doing business understands you. I mean, ultimately, we all try to be selfless to some extent, but everybody, as soon as, how does this affect me? And so, when you can see that through a video that someone else that has a similar type business, or them from a social setting, or you just admire them or heard about him or her, that you can relate to, you can do it. So we've done anywhere from sweet potato farmer and the sweet potato capital of the world, and close to us here in Mississippi. A wonderful story of a gentleman doing that. The stories we've got, in Colorado, with 21st, is finding those stories. And then, content's only as good as, if you have content, you don't distribute it, then, it's really no good. So how do you do that? You can distribute it via email, you can distribute it through social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok, there's amounts you can do on TV, whether it be traditional television or connected television, streaming radio, billboards. So that aspect of it. And I think, Casey, one of the ones of when did a campaign for one of our John Deere dealership groups that we work with, and we did a picture of product on and got a billboard on that property. So you're looking up and you're driving by and it looks so familiar, and the billboard's up there with the product on it, but it has our client's name. That relatability is really something that is, helps in the decision-making process.
Yep. All right. So one thing too, in the world that we live in now, there's social media. Obviously, is probably the best place to go put anything that you want anyone to know anything about you on. So that's obviously a thing there. But the one thing about the overarching kind of aspect of people now is that, and I found this with my own content, what I'm doing here on my podcast, is that posting something with no picture, just a post with, here's what this podcast is about, and here's the link to go listen to it, and all those kind of things. That's great, but there's so much stuff in a feed right now that there's got to be something that jumps out and grabs you. And I've noticed that when I've started putting in not just videos, but videos with, captions at the bottom, that kind of get that, because again, most people are scrolling through that stuff where they probably shouldn't be, so they don't have the volume on, right? So they're looking at that stuff and they can read what's going on, and
Oh, yeah.
when that follows what I'm saying. I mean, I've noticed that. So I guess in your experiences, you're looking at how you're presenting this information
Okay.
and doing that. What are you finding is the best way to get that message out, and what platform and what, I guess, what package is the best way to do that?
Yeah, well, I think one thing that's been interesting, and we've evolved in our business, really been doing the marketing side for about 10 or 11 years, right? And it's evolved and changed. Really great graphic. I was on share with my team, and it showed, the popularity amongst different age groups for Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat. And, in 1 minute, one is very popular, next minute it's not. And they're all unique content. So I think when you're going into a situation, and I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to put out the same thing across all platforms. Well, I think that, there's some value depending upon the content you're putting out, but also, knowing when to customize. So when you go out and do shoots, we usually go in on Monday, shoot for 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, come back on Friday. We provide all that raw footage to our clients. So then, we provide certain polished products like, TV commercial or multiple TV commercials, testimonials, or things maybe even for YouTube ads or different TikTok ads, those type of things. But then the client also has access to all that raw footage. So they can go in and say, hey, I want to do some unique content towards the audience. And so I think understanding where your audience is and knowing that that's where you should focus on, because if you try to focus on 5 to 6 different ones as one person, that's extremely difficult. And I know, why are we here talking, right? It's because we connected with each other on LinkedIn. You send me an invite to your podcast, LinkedIn thing. LinkedIn is where I spend the majority of my time because I love business. I want to grow our business, and those things, it went from a, primary employment type platform to post COVID, or when, since COVID started, to more business to relationship in addition to hiring. And that's when I found a lot of value in it. And again, kind of why we're here. So I think looking at where you are, looking at how that's changing in each one of those. So going to kind of recap, finding, where your customers are, where you believe there are, and that may be dealing with testing, right? You may do some what they call A/B testing, right? Let's see, hey, let's put stuff out amongst multiple platforms, see where we're getting the most engagement, and then let's double down in the areas that we're getting engagement in. And then do things like you said. I was flying Monday and Wednesday of this week. So, when you're sitting there in the airport, I didn't have any headphones on. Yeah, having the captions in the videos is extremely helpful, right? And so just kind of knowing that platform, knowing the ability to, reach your audience of who, that you want to reach, and then, and go from there and double down, make sure you focus on that.
Okay. All right. So kind of what you talked about here, there's lots of different presentations that you can put out there,
Yeah.
whether it's testimonials or the, the local story that is the, family, house burned down or something like that. You're trying to help a fundraiser or something like that, those tragic things that kind of come through the community and those kind of things. When do you think you run into, because I see this a lot with some customers with some stuff I see on there where there's just one testimonial after another testimonial, just like it's like one giant, YouTube, storyline of just testimony after testimony. When do you think you run into too many testimonials? Is that possible? Can you overdo that?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I think what we really want as humans is to feel like, the rawness, right? Give me something real.
Right.
I want to know, I don't, it's something that I feel like I want to feel like, I'm talking to somebody real. I can trust that person. That person has integrity, and so I think, whatever content it is, whether it be testimonials or whether it be a brand spot, make it seem, know that, and especially in the ag world, right? I feel like even more so than some of the other sectors out there. We work in auto, healthcare, housing, but ag, I feel like, you have to be real because they're and then but once you garner that trust, right? I mean, they're going to be with that loyalty is there, and it's not, but it's because of we've taken some time, we found that balance. So I don't think there's necessarily a limit or a deal, but I would just say, is the story I'm telling, right? Is it something that is it valuable?
Right.
Is it real?
Yep.
And I think when people see the realness and the rawness of that, they're going to relate and they're going to feel like, I want to do business with that person. I want to do business with that company, those people, and also too, you have to back that up. So you have a company that's putting out all these testimonials and everything's gravy, right? Right. And everything's like, it's all wonderful. But then you go to the store, or you talk to somebody on the phone, or you interact with somebody online. There's three main ways to interact, right?
Right.
And you have a bad experience, then you're going to be like, okay, that's it's not backing up what you're putting out. So then they're going to be they're going to be even more frustrated with you, and they're not going to want to do business with you.
Right.
And so I think that we're going back to that realness. If they're, and I think too, share some of your mistakes and failures. I mean, I think that's one thing that, I try to do on my personal LinkedIn is, it's not always rosy, right? There are a lot of days that just suck, for lack of a better word.
Yep.
And I think people need to see that. And I think it needs to be interactive, because I think people can relate. And there's things on my journey, my health journey, for instance, that I've shared, is because it may help other people out there. And they may, say, okay, not to say they have to do certain things, but, people want to feel that. I learned that way. And I think a lot of the people do, as well.
Yep. So, you say you talked with, you work with Sunshine down there, and not too long ago, they put a video out on a guy that moved. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he moved from Iowa, Illinois, wherever he was. He was a corn and soybean farmer, moved down to Louisiana. Now he's a crawfish farmer and a few other things that, there's no correlation there whatsoever. Were you guys part of that video, that story?
The last one with the guy that was working in Ukraine?
No, this was in down in Louisiana. I don't remember the gentleman's name. Nonetheless, the story, the cool thing about the story was that and it was telling the story about Sunshine and what they were doing. And,
yes.
And the guy comes down to Louisiana, gets away from the corn and soybean thing and comes down to Louisiana and starts doing crawfish farming. And that story was a really good story, because it told, it was like, the guy was like, I couldn't have done this without help my sales guy here that, showing me how to do things and who to talk to and who to get to know and those kind of things. And that's a really cool story, how they told that. And that kind of goes back that's that relatability thing, like you're building that trust and you're doing those kind of things. So when you're working with a company like that, how do you kind of sift through those kind of stories to, because everyone's got a story like that, right?
Yeah, everybody does. So, the thing about Sunshine, is on there, in Louisiana. And, one of the things we know of, is crawfish. And I think, we have a great marketing manager that we work with, at Sunshine, and she helps us find those stories. So I think, her and her team.
She's a sweetheart.
I'm sorry?
Grace Vest. She's a sweetheart.
Oh, yeah, she's wonderful.
I know
she's absolutely wonderful.
She's a sweetheart. Yeah.
And so Grace, she helps us find those stories, and different ones, different clients do as well. And, and I, from the outside looking in, I never thought, I didn't think going in, how is John Deere products being used for crawfish, right? For me.
Yeah.
The two just did not to me. So it's such a unique story.
Yep.
And I think, once you're working with, or, with the, team at 21st, right? We went in and got some really unique stories there that, want to be told. And that crawfish one, it's such unique. It tells that it actually won 2 awards. It won American Advertising Federation Award and a Telly Award recently. And I think it's because of that uniqueness. And before that, we did a story about Mardi Gras, right? And so a lot of the, how do they move the float arounds, right? It's John Deere equipment. And, you kind of, you see it in every day, but you don't really see it, right? It's there, but it's not, it doesn't really get into you that, okay, that connection, if you will, between the two. And so that Mardi Gras one, I encourage anybody to look at that one. It's a very just unique story because it's out. It's not sugarcane farm or
Right.
or hay. It's just different. It's a different kind of outside the box. So we like to find those stories that will provide a sense of. Well, and also too, I mean, as you well know, how do you, there's a lot of noise out there, right?
Oh yeah.
Online,
Tons of
right?
noise.
Everybody says, you gotta be online, I gotta be online, okay, great. But
Yep.
everybody's there, right?
Right. Everyone's
And so,
there. Exactly.
and it's dramatically increased since 2020, right? And you look at the advertising spend, I looked at yesterday on online, digital advertising, search advertising for in particular, and it's just dramatically increased in the last 2 years. And so, so how do you stand out, right? And so I think that is where you have to go find those unique. Yes, there's a core element of you need to sell tractors, you need to sell certain type of equipment, or if you're in a different end, your signage, you need to sell certain things, right? Or healthcare, you need to have certain types of get people in to do certain type of surgeries or this, that, and the other. Every sector has their own thing, but and every business has its own needs, or nonprofit has its own needs. But when you're telling those stories, how do you stand out? So a story like that is very important. And I think too, going back to what we said earlier, know the platform. Used to years ago when Facebook came out, you could post a piece of content, write a photo, or I think or whatever type of content out there, and it would get a ton of engagement, where they call organic or free traffic. Right, you do that today, you get virtually none, right? And so, unless it's really, really, really good, but it's a needle in a haystack, not the haystack type thing that it was. And so, you have to advertise in order to get your message out there. So, where do we come in? We come in and helping on the advertising side of it to make sure that you are reaching your customers where you want to reach them, and whether it be YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat, streaming radio, streaming television, billboards, all that kind of stuff. We want you to reach, we're going out and reaching them, Google, all those types of things. So it's, Grace has been wonderful to work with because, she goes out and helps us find those stories. We're actually going down on Monday, back down there to Louisiana to get some more stories. So.
Yep. Yeah, she's a sweetheart. I've known her for some while, so she's a hustler too, man. She'll find some stuff out there that's really neat. So, well, William, it's a good conversation, man. If folks want to reach out to you, get more information about what it is that you're doing there at Hunt Marketing, what's the best way to do that?
Yes, my email is will@hunt marketingfirm.com, and my cell is 202-436-4350.
Right on. Okay. Well, I appreciate you being on the podcast, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Right on, man. And you are actually part of this. So Alex Yurchenko is a friend of mine, is going back to Ukraine to distribute humanitarian aid. And he's got a GoFundMe page, bought a van. He's going to go over there and do that. And William and his crew, they videoed that. So if you get a chance to check that out, go to 21st Century Equipment's LinkedIn page. It's there, I know, and a few other places. Check that out. But if you're interested in helping him out, go to his GoFundMe page. Just go to GoFundMe, search "Help Alex Transport Humanitarian Aid from Poland to Ukraine," and donate what you can where you can out there. So he's he's out doing what he can to help his fellow countrymen, and need to keep him in his thoughts and prayers. But with that, if you can help out Alex with his mission, that'd be excellent. So with that, I'm Casey Seymour with Will Hunt. Let's go move some iron, folks. Out.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard work.